Hi, I'm Jenny Fish with One Big Happy Yarn Company, and welcome to our Love Bug Baby Set Knit Along. This is episode 1, and we're going to be making the jumper. It's a cute little sweater, and I can't wait to get it started with you. First off, let's talk a little bit about the pattern. It comes in 2 different sizes, teeny tiny. We've got a 3-month and a 6-month for our little bitty babies, and we are using 2 different yarns. And I'm showing these to you so that you can have the option when you check out the kit at onebighappy.com. It'll have the yarn and the pattern, and then you select the yarn from the yarn choices, which one you want. We have 2 different options. One is using Madeline Tosh, and this is the DK weight. And then the soaker will also be in the kit, and we're using Cascade 220 for the soaker. Then for the other option, we are using Barocco Comfort, and this is nylon and acrylic blend. So it's 50-50 super fine nylon and super fine acrylic, and it's great for babies, super soft and some great baby colors. And then for the soaker for that one, we're using the Cascade 220. So those are your yarn options. We are also using a US size 4 for the jumper. And then a couple of extra things that you're going to need. Circular needle, a 16-inch because we're knitting in the round and it's a little tiny. Double pointed needles. We're going to be working the sleeve area, and the double pointed needles work well for picking those up. And then your standard tapestry needles, scissors, row counter, measuring tape. But also they have these cute little buttons on there. And so you'll need to find some 1/2-inch diameter buttons, just like that. Let me put those down there so you can see them. And so I have some plain ones here, but feel free to jazz it up. Now, the buttons don't come with the kit. You'll have to buy those separately, but there's tons of buttons out there, and they just add that extra little touch. So that's the pattern and supplies. So now we're going to cast on. For this project, I'm using a long tail cast on. In the pattern, it'll tell you how many stitches to cast on, but I have a little sample down here where I've cast on a few stitches. And I want to go over the beginning of this project because we are incorporating a special stitch called the linen stitch. Also, in this jumper pattern, we're doing the linen stitch in 2 different areas. One of them we are knitting flat, so we're going back and forth, and the other one we're knitting in the round. So be sure to look at your pattern for the step-by-step instructions, because there is a difference when you're making this stitch versus back and forth and in the round. So linen stitch back and forth on this first section. And I'm going to show you here on the jumper where we're starting. Let me just unbutton this real quick. See these cute little heart-shaped buttons? I actually found these in an old button tin. So see how that side opens right there? We are starting here and going to create this band back and forth. So that's why you're not knitting in the round just yet. You're creating this little band here. So we're going to go ahead and start that stitch. First, you're going to knit 1. And then bring your yarn forward. You're going to see in the pattern WYIF. That means with yarn in front. So I've brought the yarn in front and I'm going to slip 1. Just slide it from the left needle to the right needle. Then I bring my yarn back around and knit 1. I'm going to repeat that all the way till I get to the last stitch. So you're going to knit 1, bring the yarn forward, slip 1, bring the yarn back, knit 1. And this is what gives the linen stitch a nice texture look to it. Do this all the way till I get to the last stitch. And of course you'll have more stitches on your needle because I'm just doing a little sample here. So when I get to the last stitch, my last one was a knit one, but now I have one stitch left, then you knit that. So on here, they're the last 2 stitches you knit, but when you follow the pattern, it'll say knit, repeat that until the last stitch, and then knit one. So that's what that means. Now on row 2, we're on the back side of the fabric, and we're going to purl 1. So slide your needle in as if to purl. Make sure that you do have your yarn in front before you slide your needle in. It'll wrap around your cord. So I brought my yarn forward, slide my needle in, and I wrap my yarn around and purl 1. Now you're going to see WYIB. That means with yarn in back. I'm going to bring the yarn to the back side of my work and slip 1. And again, I'm slipping from the left needle to the right needle, and I slip it right there. Then I bring the yarn forward because I'm going to purl, and then back to slip that. So basically, I'm like weaving my yarn through a stitch that I'm not working. And you'll go ahead and you'll go back and forth, repeating rows 1 and 2 of the linen stitch pattern until you have worked the number of rows for the size that you're making. So once you get this done, I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so on this sample here, I've finished the linen stitch, and this is the neckband, and I'll show you where that fits in on the little jumper. It goes right through here. Also, too, while I have this here, I'll show you, I have incorporated the stitch markers. It will tell you in the pattern where to put those in, but if you'll notice where they line up is right here. This is where we'll also be working our increases so that we can form these sleeves. And this goes all the way around because this is not knit in the round yet. It's knit flat, so it goes from here back and forth. But that's what that looks like. Those are where the stitch markers go. And in your pattern, it'll tell you sleeve front right. It'll give you exact what each of these areas are while you're knitting them. So now I am on row 6. And this is where the fun stuff happens. We've already finished our neckband, so we're ready to start making this look a little bit more like a little jumper. We are going to bring yarn around front. I said row 6. I meant row 7. We are going to knit 1, knit 2 together, and then yarn over. That's where our buttonhole gets placed. That's going to create a hole, and so that's where we can put our button in. And then knit 1. Now you're going to knit till you get to 1 stitch before the stitch marker. Now we're going to be doing an increase called a KFB, which means knit front back. And I'll show you how we work that stitch. Go into the front of the stitch. Do not take this stitch off the needle, swing back around, and then knit through the back of that stitch. So that's an increase of 1. We're going to slide the marker, knit the 1 stitch between the 2 markers, slide the stitch, and now we're going to do that KFB again. Knit through the front, come around and knit through the back, and then we've done an increase. For this row, you just continue on, knit to 1 stitch before the stitch marker, and we'll do that same thing again. KFB, knit 1, KFB. And that starts the increases to form the flares for the sleeves. Go ahead and continue that on. So once you've worked all those increases, then it looks a little bit like this. And then I'll show you here for visual reference. Just like this. And then our buttonholes are on this side over here. And that's a sleeve there. That's half of the sleeve here, half of the other sleeve there, because they button together. So that's what that's going to look like when you get here. Now what we're going to do is divide for the sleeves. So with the right side facing, you're going to take your tapestry needle and some scrap yarn, And then depending on the size that you're making, it'll tell you how many stitches you're going to pull off for your sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these stitches off. I have scrap yarn on my tapestry needle. And I'm sliding these over. We will come back later and pick up these stitches to form the sleeve bands. But for right now, we can just slide them on off. Just like that. And then and you can put that on a stitch holder too if you have one. I just grab some scrap yarn. And then tie a little slip knot and hold that there. Now at this point, you're going to incorporate your yarn. You've cut off the yarn that you were working with because that's on your sleeve, so you can't start knitting with that. It'll bring it around. So you cut the yarn and then you start with new yarn to knit across. And to just start, it's like make a loop, wrap it around your needle, knit that first stitch, and then pick up and knit. Okay, so I'm going to knit across till I get to my next stitch marker. Okay, I'm to the next stitch marker. I'm going to slide that off, grab some more scrap yarn, and then I'm going to pick up that stitch, slide the stitch marker off, and these are for the second sleeve. That's what these stitches are, so we're not going to be working those right now. We're putting them on the scrap yarn to hold them so that we work them later. Same thing as before. Just going to pull that yarn through here. Just like that. Now I have a gap here because I just pulled those stitches off for the sleeve. So you can see it start forming right now. What I need to do is create some extra stitches here to bridge this gap to the other side. And what I like to use is a backwards loop cast on in this situation because I'm going to be adding like the underarm stitches. And on here, you do a backwards loop cast on. And for whatever size you're using, it'll tell you how many stitches you need to cast on. So I'm just doing it. Let me show you exactly how we do that backwards loop cast on. Super easy. I just wrap it around my index finger, crisscross like that, and then slide my needle through and let go. Now I leave it a little bit loose, but not too loose. Try to maintain the same distance between the other stitches that are on your needle to give you a good gauge of tension. I hold it with my right index finger to hold those stitches in place. And like I said, for whatever size you're making, it'll tell you exactly how many you need to do this for. Once you've cast on your extra stitches, then you can start knitting into the first stitch on your left needle. And then we're going to knit across till we get to the next stitch marker. Okay, so I'm to the last part of the first sleeve. I'm going to slide that stitch marker off. And again, grab some scrap yarn or a stitch holder, whichever you prefer. And then I'm going to slide the rest of these stitches onto my scrap yarn. Just like that. There we go. These things work up so fast. They are so cute and adorable. So now we have to bridge the gap between these two sleeves, and I'll show you again where we're at right now. Yeah, see, it's starting to look more like a sweater or a little jumper. And this is, we'll put our buttons here later and fold that over. Now we have to bridge the gap for the underarm part of this side. So to do that, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the backwards loop cast on. Here's my active yarn. And again, it'll tell you how many, so just go ahead and slide that like that. Remember to use your index finger to hold those stitches and try to keep the stitch distance the same as what you have already knit. You can just look down and see what that looks like. Try to keep it the same. And now we're ready to join in the round, to start knitting in the round so we can finish off. Okay, we're right here now. So we're going to join in the round by knitting across here, knitting those underarm stitches, knitting across here. Once we've done that, then we'll start in on the linen stitch in the round. So I'll just show you these first steps of joining in the round. I've got the stitches that I just cast on using the backwards loop cast on, and then these are the stitches from the other side of the jumper. Make sure my yarn is in the back because I'm going to be using a knit stitch. I don't want that to wrap around my cord. And then insert and knit all the way around. Now this first one, I have that tail back there because that's where I added the yarn. You can tug on that to close that stitch up. It'll get a little wonky if you don't. And then just knit one round all the way back. Okay, now I'm coming up on the stitches that we cast on for under the arm, and see how you have this strand here, and that's normal. That happens, so don't freak out when you see that. But a trick that I like to do is I stick my needle underneath, in between the first two stitches underneath, and that gives me space to stick my needle into that first stitch and knit it, and the bar has kind of moved to the next one. And I'll do that all the way across. And those can be a little tricky because there's really no base to that stitch. It's just kind of out there twisting and floating. So once you work into that like this is the best way I've found to work those. Okay, so then you'll just continue all the way around till you get to the beginning of the round, and then I will show you how to work linen stitch in the round. Okay, so I have knit all the way across. Don't forget to put in a beginning of the round stitch marker so you know where to begin. And now we're going to start with the linen stitch in the round. And this is super simple. You knit one stitch, bring the yarn to the front, slip your next stitch, take the yarn to the back, and knit. And bring it forward, back and forth. Now you're knitting in the round. The right side is facing you, so the difference with the linen stitch in the round is that's all you do. You just keep doing that around and around and around. Follow the pattern. It'll tell you how many times, how many rounds you go, but it's just that simple. You knit one, bring the yarn to the front and slip. Bring the yarn to the back and knit one. There is an odd number of stitches on your needle at this point, and that's what allows you just to continue on without having to do anything different. When you get to your stitch marker, then that last stitch is a knit, so then you bring your yarn to the front to slip the first stitch on the next round. When you come back around, it's the opposite, so it just allows you to continue on and on and on. Once you have finished your linen stitch in the round, then you switch over to stockinette, which is just knit every stitch all the way to the desired length of your jumper. And then we do this little band here at the bottom. It's the same thing. Knit one, slip one with the yarn in front, knit one, that linen stitch, and then you bind off. And then you've finished the main portion of the jumper. At that point, we need to go back and pick up the stitches that we have here so that we can do this little band here. So I have another little sample here where I have the stitches ready to be picked up. And at this point, I still have them on my needles, but I just want to show you what this looks like. This side is open because that's where our buttons are going to go, and that's where our buttonholes are. So when you pick up these stitches, you're going to have the right side facing you, and you will slide these stitches onto a double pointed needle, or you can still use your circular needle if you want to, but I just use my double pointed needle. Slide those in there and pull out your scrap yarn. Oh, I lost one of my stitches, went down there, so I just pulled it right up. And then remove. Scrap yarn or stitch holder, whichever one you're using. So you go all the way across. When you get to this center section here, these are the stitches that you cast on. Then you just slide through. I like to go through 2 legs of that stitch, and then bring your yarn around. Oops, only one. And knit. That's called picking up a stitch. So then you slide through and pick that up. Just like that. Then once you have all of those stitches on your needle, for the button side, you follow the linen stitch, the first one that we did, the linen stitch flat, because you'll be knitting on a purl side and a right side. And then you bind off. Now for the other side, here, we're back to in the round, same idea. Now on this side, when you pick up all these stitches, go back and count. The pattern will tell you how many to pick up, but if you're off just a little bit, make sure that there's an odd number of stitches on here before you get started. You can be off by 2 to 4 stitches. It's going to be okay. It just flares it out a little bit, or if you're a little less, then it'll be a little smaller. But do what looks right, because sometimes these stitches can look a little wonky, and when you get to like this area right here, you're like, uh-oh, which one do I pick up? Pick up what is going to close the gap. If you don't, then you'll have a hole there, and you don't want that. So just keep that in mind. You know, you're the one knitting this. Make it look good. It's okay to pick up a little extra. Just make sure that you have an odd number of stitches so that when you do the linen stitch in the round, you can just keep going. Finish that off, bind it off. Then, yay, the last thing you do after you've weaved in your ends and blocked it is sew your little buttons on. And I want to show you how I determine where to put my buttons. So here are my buttonholes, right here. Those are the ones I created in the beginning with the yarn over. I bring this tab forward and I lay that over, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to put a button there, I'm going to put a button there, and I'm going to put a button there. So then I just put my button down and sew the button on. Then I bring it back over again, put that one in the buttonhole so I can kind of look. It's sewing a button on, it's not too difficult, but that's how I place them. And they're in between the bars. And you know, once it's on the baby, it's going to be so adorable. So that is the Love Bug Jumper. It's super adorable. So check out the other one. Go to onebighappy.com. That's where we have the kit and the pattern that includes the yarn, everything that you need. You do have to buy your button separate, but check out all the amazing color options that we have in this Madeline Tosh DK. So cute, so beautiful. So that is the Love Bug Jumper. Thank you for joining me. Join me in the next episode where we get to knit this cute little soaker. It goes right along with the jumper and then a changing pad as well. You guys have a great day. Thank you for joining me. Happy knitting.